Sean?
Yes.
Please.
Thank you. Okay.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Great.
From 1 to 10? From 1 to 10? You are? 9. Where is 10?
Because we go home today.
Ah, I see. Okay, my name is Sean, and we're here today to talk about Pravda and Istina. And, oh, you saw the jacket yesterday, huh? So I can take it off now. Okay. And you saw the tie yesterday?
Yes.
I can take it off?
Yes.
Okay. It's a funny thing about ties. I have never bought a tie in my life. People buy me ties. And I wonder, is it because they love me? Or is it because secretly in their heart, they hope one day I will strangle myself? What do you think? You think so? Okay, can I take it off? The tie is an important symbol. It's the most ridiculous piece of clothing ever invented because it serves no purpose at all. But if I go into the Vatican with the tie, and I must go many times a day past the Swiss guards, if I wear a tie, the Swiss guards will salute me. If I go without the tie, they will say, "Excuse me, who are you?" And I say, "Who am I? I am the man with the tie 5 minutes ago." "Oh, yes," and then they will let me through. It is a symbol. So, but now I feel much better now. I feel more relaxed, and we're ready to go. So, today we become very serious. Very serious. So stop smiling, please. It's a very serious conversation today. You need to know, when I left Rome on Wednesday, many people called me. This is true. I will never lie to you, I promise. I cannot lie. I'm a Catholic. I cannot lie to you. This is true. When I left Rome on Wednesday, many people called me or sent me messages and said, excuse me, it's funny, "You must not go to Ukraine." And I said, why not? "You must not go to Ukraine," they said. "It's dangerous." And I said, "That's dangerous. I'm a war correspondent." They said, "Have you seen the BBC News?" Bogdan, let them see the BBC News that everybody was reading on Wednesday and said, "Don't go to Ukraine," because we saw on BBC this piece of news which says, it's not this piece of news, it's another piece of news which Bogdan is going to show for us. I will keep talking in a moment. My good technical, applause for Bogdan, my technical assistant. They changed your computer, I'm sorry. Okay. It's all right. Ukraine BBC. Okay, very good. Do you know this name? Poroshenko? All right, here we go. This is the BBC.com, and this is what my friends were seeing, and my colleagues were seeing, and they said, "What do you see?" Ukraine's Poroshenko talks of, quote, real war with Russia. Now, of course, in Rome and in Italy, I have to say no one knows the name Poroshenko. They don't know who that name is. So they don't see the name. Now, this is important to begin our discussion this morning. It is called selective seeing. Remember I told you yesterday, we look, we don't see. So people look, and what do they see? What do they read? They read Ukraine. What do they see? Exactly. Very good. Very good. They say Ukraine, Russia, real war. Don't go. Don't go. This is now. This is the day before yesterday. Ukraine, Russia, real war. Then, of course, because I'm a communicator and I care, and I love Ukraine, I care, so I go to my colleagues and the people who say don't go, and I say, excuse me, what are you talking about? Question 1, what do you know about Ukraine? And what do they say?
Not enough.
Well, first they say, what do you think they say? Come on. What do you think people say? What do people outside Ukraine know about Ukraine? That's a good point to begin.
It's country near Russia.
It's a country near Russia. That is already a country near Russia. Can I tell you what they told me? Many people told me. It is a country that is... Please don't get angry, huh? Please don't get angry. All right? We're here as adults. Everybody, is there anybody under 18?
Yes. Yes. No.
They said it's a country that's part of Russia. It's a country that's part of Russia. And so you say, no, actually it's not. Oh. And then you show them a map of Europe and you say, can you put your finger on Ukraine? And they start going like this, and they go somewhere near Lithuania and Azerbaijan and Belarusia, and then they see, oh, and then what do they say? What's the next thing you think they say?
It's so big.
It's so big. Yes. It's so big. I never knew it was so big, they say. And then they look and they say, now that I see, I understand. Interesting, huh? Now that I see, I understand. It's not as close to Russia as it is close to Europe. But you have to show a map, you have to show a picture. Communication students, media students, why do we have to show pictures? We live in a visual age. We live in a visual age. I was speaking to Boblin this morning at breakfast, and I was saying, I was shocked yesterday at the way you listened to my lecture. I had a problem with my beautiful MacBook Air, which costs much too much money. It's very beautiful to look at, but is not compatible with your system. So yesterday afternoon, I had some beautiful pictures to show you, and we came back after lunch, and it would not work. And I talked to you for an hour and a half yesterday morning, an hour and a half yesterday afternoon, and you listened to me without pictures. And we were talking today because Bogdan was with me in Rome when I was teaching other classes. He came along to listen, and so did you come along to listen to some of the classes. I will say, my American students have to have pictures. They have. If I do not show pictures, they find it's very difficult to follow the lecture. You followed my lecture yesterday the whole day without pictures. You listened, you participated, you asked intelligent questions, and I was shocked. And I will tell them when I get back, I will say, my Ukrainian students, listen to me. They don't need pictures. But we brought you pictures today anyway. Can we show you the other picture of the girl? The girl. Okay. Yes. Let me show you what else. What do people know? Huh? The Maidan. Yes. What do people know? So when I keep asking, I'm a journalist also. So I keep asking my students, my colleagues, my journalist colleagues. And I say, what do you know about Ukraine? And the journalist colleagues, what do they know? Ukraine for them now equals another name. It began with an M. equals Maidan for my journalists. And where do they get that from? Because they remember these pictures. But in our mind, so many things are happening at the same time, these pictures stand still. So people say, don't go, because even if Ukraine is not at war with Russia, be careful of the protests. I say, excuse me, what protests? They say, you be careful because, you know, the Molotov cocktails and the police are shooting. I said, where? Oh, but didn't you see the pictures? Didn't you see the pictures? Yes, I see the pictures. They are fixed in their minds. These are the pictures they have fixed in their minds. They don't understand that there's a passage of time. And where do they get them from? They get them from YouTube. Don't they, Bogdan? From YouTube. The girl, yes, press play. This is what they see. Did you see this video? It's very famous. Do you know how many plays this got? If you go on YouTube and you look, this video got 8.5 million views. 8.5 million views. And so this is the picture that people have in their minds of Ukraine right now. And so what do you see? What do they see?
They see the blood and the bombs. Yeah.
Ukraine is, in one word, it's dangerous. Ukraine is chaos. Ukraine is chaos. Chaos? Oh, can we say hello to Tatiana? Tatiana is our new translator today. Hello, Tatiana. Look at this video and tell me, does the girl come up again? There's another reason why it got 8.5 million views. And that is because, okay, thank you, Bogdan. Because she is beautiful. She's gorgeous. You ask yourself, honestly, Arden, would you have got 8.5 million views if that was you saying the same thing with the same picture? Stand up, please, and tell me. Would you have got 8.5 million views if it was Arden up there instead of her? No. There were people watching the video to watch her. What do we call that in marketing? That technique of using a very attractive person to communicate our message. Kind of, well, yeah, we call it it's a testimonial, but there is an element of sexism. Do you like that video? Do you think it is a true, or it was a true example, a true communication of the situation? We're already using the word true. Is it true? Do you feel that reflects is that the message you want people to see?
It's true, but it made more sweet. It's true, but it made more sweet to make people watch this video. Because if it will be only violence there, they didn't watch them because people didn't interested in only violence, only death, only kill.
That's brilliant. That is very, very clever. Thank you for seeing that. Yes. It's very clever because people are tired of violence. If it was just bombs exploding and guns shooting, I can show you pictures of violence from many different places around the world that unfortunately are happening right now. But it is sweetened. That was a very good word, yes. Like the pill, the bitter pill, it is sweetened because she is this beautiful testimonial. And so your heart immediately goes, oh my goodness, and you must watch, and people watch. But let's see, this is more recent. This is yesterday. This is yesterday's New York Times. What do you think about the New York Times? Our key words today are truth, lies. Credibility. That is why we spoke about credibility yesterday. And we said credibility is a kind of trust. Do you remember the difference? We tend to talk about trust when we talk about personal relationships. We talk about credibility in terms of institutions, larger organizations. Is the New York Times a credible organization in your idea, as journalists, as media experts? Would you say, would you believe, because that is what comes from credo, from the Latin, the Latin credo, I believe. Would you believe what the New York Times tells you? Can I see yes? Can I see no? Goodness me, the New York Times will be very happy to see that. That there's only one person in the university, the Catholic University of Lviv, and we're going to interview him right now to find out why he says that the New York Times is not credible. Oh, I go to my headphones, yes. I'm very curious, aren't you?
Тому що я знаю про репортажі Волонтера Дюранті, який був в СРСР під час...
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Go again, please, Natasha.
Тетяна.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I can't.
Can you thank you?
Можете взяти мені. Я знаю про репортажі Волонтера Дюранті, який є... який був в СРСР в часи Голодомору. І писав абсолютно брехливі речі, що голоду в Україні немає, що це все вигадки. І пізніше отримав за це Пулітцерівську премію.
Got the Pulitzer Prize. Thank you. Yes, it's interesting that you're the only one. Everyone else would consider it a credible source. Let me tell you what the New York Times said yesterday. It's on the front page. You're on the front page. You're together on the front page, right next to Boko Haram. So the headline is Boko Haram and its strategy of sexual terror. And then on the one side you have ISIS, and on the other side you have Kiev. And that already journalistically tells me something, because this is what people see in the stand, in the news stand. So Boko Haram, ISIS, and Kiev. And it says Kiev collapsing into, what was the word I used earlier? Chaos. Chaos. This is yesterday. Kiev collapsing into chaos as corruption takes a toll. Ukraine's leadership fails to deliver on its pledges to eliminate graft. Graft is another word for corruption. Yes. Where's my assistant this morning? I thought I had an assistant. Where is she? When I need her.
I think that maybe when we are talking about the New York Times and different things which is happening in the world, I can say that they are telling the truth. But if we are talking about the things which is happening in Ukraine, I think that New York Times is still know little things about Ukraine, the same as you talk about the Rome and other countries. So I think that things happens that way that Ukraine cannot be interesting for the Europe and for the world, and that's why people don't know why the New York Times, for example, need to send a journalist to Ukraine and to write the reporting from Ukraine.
Very good. Ukraine is interesting to Italy because the gas pipelines pass through Ukraine, and if something happens, If something happens in Ukraine, then we freeze in Rome, and I can't cook my pasta because there's no gas on my stove. So Ukraine is often in the news in Italy. The article continues inside, which is the most interesting part. They give it a lot of space, huh? It's a half a page under their world news. This is Ukrainian minor. Big picture, half a page. That's a lot. That's a lot of space to give to one topic, huh? As you turn on page 3. And the article is mainly about, again, turmoil is another word for chaos, afflicts Ukraine as promises are unkept. But, you may agree or not, do you agree with that? Have the promises, the Maidan promises, been kept? No, it's true. Right? Is corruption still a problem in Ukraine? Don't be afraid. We're here, we're all over 18, and we're here to discuss them. Is corruption still a problem? Yes. It is. Is it just a problem in Ukraine? Exactly. It's a problem just about everywhere. Do you remember the name of Italy's Prime Minister until a little while ago? Mr. Berlusconi. Yes. Do you remember this? The president had to ask Mr. Berlusconi to resign. Mr. Berlusconi, would you please resign now? Because it's too much. Huh? So it's not just a problem. It looks like, though, if you read this, it looks like Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world and the only country that is corrupt. But what is interesting is, and as journalists, what is important, we put in the headline what we want people to see. The headline, as you know very well, is what draws people to the article and makes you read the article. But you also know, don't you, as media students, that we don't read anymore. And we have done tests on how we read. And you will know certainly that the way most of us read now looks, if you draw a graph, it looks like this. We read the top line, then we read half of the next line, and then half of the next line, and then we skim down the page, and then we go away. Most people read like that. They read the headline, half of the next line, a piece of the next line, and then they skim down and they look for keywords. Keywords are usually emotional words, and that is why words like chaos, turmoil, corruption, violence, these are the words that jump out at us and make us continue to read the article. But the most interesting part of the article is right at the end, that no one reads. The last lines of this article, which run for half a page, are the most interesting lines. Do you want to hear them? Do you care? Are you curious? Are you still awake? Yes. Last lines. I leave this with you if you want. Put this in your archive. One day your children will read this, and you can say, I remember when this man came from the Vatican. And they say, yes, Grandma, I know. You told me before. I saw the selfie. You can show them. The last lines are the most interesting, and this is what they say. Analysts say, first, what, and who, where, what, and when. Analysts say, there is little reason for Russia to renew hostilities while Ukraine is fighting with itself. Ooh. Then they use a name. The name begins with a P. I'm not allowed to say it because we're on camera. It begins with a P. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. ends with an N. No, but okay, right. Yeah? So, the name, this person's hope, listen carefully, is Russia doesn't need to make Ukraine weak. Ukraine will be weak by itself. He can just wait a while and take advantage of its weakness sometime in the future. Ooh. I need to know what you think about that. It's important to me. Okay, who wants to tell me? What do you think about that? Is it true? Okay, here we go. All right then. Who says yes? Who says it's true? Who says it's not true? Excuse me, sorry. Who is asleep and doesn't care? So if nobody puts their hand up to say it's true, I'm going to do this again. Who says it's true? Who says it's not true? Who really doesn't know? Who has no opinion on the subject? You really don't know. Then I have to ask you, well, why don't you know? What is it that you don't know? What is it? It's very specific. What is it that you don't know?
Це якийсь інформаційний гриб.
So, is this thing, is it on? It's on. I don't know why I couldn't hear. Natasha, try again. Talk to me, Natasha. No, I can't hear you. No. Thank you. Talk to me, Natasha. Oh, what a beautiful voice you have. Okay. Excuse me. So.
Це якийсь насправді інформаційний салат з усього підряду. А я не знаю, хто ці аналітики, не приведені жодні їхні імена. І ці аналітики навряд можуть знати, що в голові Путін.
Interesting. Do you agree? What's your name again?
Анна.
Anna. 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 Do you agree with Anna? Information salad. That's a beautiful term. Very beautiful, very expressive, very visual term. Huh? Information salad. Yes? Arden, you want to say something?
I just want to say that in the very beginning we had a word turmoil, which is much more powerful than the simple corruption and chaos.
And chaos.
And
Both words. Chaos
yes.
on the front page, turmoil inside.
And in the very end, in the last sentence, we have part of hesitation and supposition.
Hesitation and supposition. Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask you to do this now. I was going to ask you to do this later during the class, but I will invite you to do it now on your laptop or your iPad or your smartphone or on your notebook. If you need a pen, I hope you brought a pen today. Did you bring a pen today?
Yeah.
Good. Otherwise, I brought some pens too for you today, just in case. I need you to write in one line, in one sentence, write down or type down or identify, define in one sentence the headline you would write for the New York Times. Today is New York Times. Write a new headline for Ukraine, for the New York Times, for today. Remember that people will read the headline, and they will read a little bit of the byline, and they will look for keywords. So, please write your headline for Ukraine, for the New York Times, today. Go. Who wants to share? Who would like to share their headline with us? Thank you. Please tell me your name. I would like to know your microphone. Sorry. We must make Natasha work too. Okay. Tell me your name because I'm trying to.
Okay, my name is Tatiana, and I offer such a high title: Pros and Cons of New Ukrainian Leaders. Pros and Cons of New Ukrainian Leaders.
Pros and cons of new Ukrainian leaders. All right, so you're trying to give us two sides. You're using. Thank you so much. You're using my two hands of yesterday. Huh? Yes, you're using positive and negative, pro and con on both sides. Very fine. That's very valuable. Who else would like to share with us? Don't be shy. There's no criticism. There's no judgment here. There's no right or wrong answer in today's class. We're trying to understand. We're doing what we promised to do yesterday. We know what the world is saying. We know what the media is saying and the media is not saying. But we're trying today to understand. We're going deep. We're going deep and we're discovering together. Yes?
Maybe I'm confused but Шон-Патрік Лаветт, Master-class in Ukraine, Lie or Truth, War or Peace in Ukraine.
Okay, yes, well again, but Seàn Patrick Lovett we can leave out, but certainly lies there. Yes, we're using the two hands. That's beautiful for me, because yesterday I spoke to you, I asked you to show me your two hands. Both sides, lies and truth with war and peace. That's very good, very nice. One more, just one more. Good morning, Arthur.
Ukrainians struggle to reform with a war at their backs.
Ukrainians struggle to reform with a war at their backs. Okay, so we have the key words. We have Ukraine, reform, war, struggle. That would be effective. I would read an article like that. It's what you call an open title. It's not a closed title, I'm sure in your classes. You've heard about open questions and closed questions. This is an open question. It doesn't presume that the newspaper has the answer. It will explain, it will give you some options. Just one more. Someone from the back, because lots of people sitting at the back today.
Invaders must die.
Say again?
Invaders must die.
That's a strong title. I'm not sure it would be published in the New York Times.
I'm not sure that the people who read New York Times know the band Prodigy, but if they know, they will understand.
That's why I said maybe not the New York Times, maybe a young person's magazine, certainly. Very good. Okay. All right, let's get back to our truth and lies and talk for a little. As I was can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you a secret? When Igor Belinsky invited me to come back to Ukraine, I was very excited because I truly loved it. Can you see that I'm happy to be here? Can you see? I'm so happy to be here. I'm much happier to be here than be back in my office in the Vatican. And it's so stimulating to be with you. And you are so wonderful, you're so intelligent, and you're so dynamic, and you're so, at least yesterday, today you were a bit asleep, but that's okay. Yesterday you were so engaging, it's still wonderful. But I was a bit afraid, that is my confession. I was afraid to talk about this subject, because I understand that it's a very personal issue for all of you, and for some of you, in particular, it's a very, very personal issue. And so I started to look at it from far away, like we do in cinema, because I also teach video production, and started to look at it as a long shot, and then came in closer and closer in a zoom. And this is what I found, and I would just like to share with you. Tatiana, these are the quotes. I looked up lies. I started with lies. And this is what I found, and I thought it might be fun to share with you. Abraham Lincoln, you know who Abraham Lincoln was? He said you can fool some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time. But you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. Isn't that wonderful? I think, isn't that marvelous? Yeah? Do you think that applies here in Ukraine? Do you think that the lies and propaganda can fool some of the people, but not all of the people all of the time? I think so. I went further back because I studied Greek and Latin at school. Do you still study Greek and Latin at school? No. No, it's a pity, because a classical education, they were very wise back then. They knew many things. There's a Greek philosopher by the name of Demosthenes, and he said, nothing is easier than self-deceit, to lie to yourself, because what each man wishes, he also believes to be true. Do you think that is appropriate? Do you think that is appropriate in East Ukraine especially? What each person wishes they believe to be true? I say East Ukraine because reading Demosthenes and reading Abraham Lincoln, and I try to make connections, because communication is also about, as Nokia tells us, connecting. It's about communication, is about connecting. So I tried to make connections, and I thought, it's not just about lies, is it? It's much more subtle than that. Lies are like, you know, the Italian story of the puppet with the long nose? Do you remember his name? Pinocchio. And do you remember what happens? Every time he tells a lie, his nose gets longer and longer. So it's quite easy to tell a lie. We experimented even yesterday. Remember, I asked you to tell me, am I smiling? It's quite easy to tell a lie. Huh? Do you know how to tell a lie when people lie to you? Can you tell? How can you tell? When your boyfriend is lying to you? You don't. You better learn very quickly before you marry him. And it's too late.
He lied to me.
You hope?
I hope.
You must make sure.
I believe.
Young love. So romantic. You can tell. There are wonderful techniques to tell if someone is lying. Huh? They usually... So, darling, do you love me? Yes! Oh, yes, I love you! Eye contact is one. Tone of voice is another. What they're doing with their hand. It's quite easy to tell a lie. Huh? Their nose grows. It's quite easy to tell a lie, but it's more complicated than that. And that's what Demosthenes made me think. It's much more complicated than that. It's called... We call it manipulation. We call it different words. We call it deceit. We call, in Ukrainian, is there an equivalent for something called a white lie? Do you have a white lie? Huh? How would you say white? A white lie is a lie that you tell for a good reason. Huh? So she comes home with a new hairstyle. Huh? And it's terrible. And she says, darling, do you like my hair? And you go, yes, you look fabulous. That's a white lie. Huh? Because you know, if you tell the truth, you sleep in the lounge in the sitting room tonight, or just don't come home. That is, a white lie is a lie that you say for a good reason, or a white lie maybe just to protect somebody. There are different variations of subtle kinds of lies. And as I kept thinking, and I kept reading, I saw an old saying, lying is done with words and also with silence. And then I read in the Catholic tradition, there is a saint called Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine, in the 4th century, thought it was such an important and complicated subject that he wrote a book in Latin called De Mendatio, which means about lying. And he defined different types of lies. Lies that we say deliberately to hurt someone. Lies that we say to protect someone. Lies that we are bad but produce a good effect. Very complicated. Far too complicated for us this morning. And as I kept thinking, I discovered something that was not in the books, that is not on Wikipedia, that's not on Google. And it's this, and I got this idea from listening to my friends and my colleagues when we were looking at these videos, and I was asking, what do you know about Ukraine? There's a different kind of more subtle lie, which is this. What is a stereotype? Can you define a stereotype for me? I know you can, yes, I know you can. I want someone to wake up at the back there. Can you define a stereotype? Okay. You see, always the people in the front row are the ones always sort of, they write a thesis about people in the back rows and people in the front rows, and never mind, okay.
Stereotypes, it's something like a sign that every person should know in one way. So, for example, stereotype of some persons' habits and so on.
Okay. Can you give me some keywords about stereotypes? Keyword about stereotype, what's it?
Predict. It's when you predict something then and associate, for example, a person with some groups of people, and to think that you know because he is Ukrainian, for example.
It's based on presumption. I presume to know because of a simplification. So, I say I'm Irish. You know my name is Sean-Patrick Lovett, and you know my family is Irish. What do you think you know about me? What is my favorite color? Green. What is my favorite drink? Whiskey. And when I can't afford whiskey? Guinness. Guinness, right. Am I a very quiet and shy person?
No, you're a brawler.
Actually, I don't like Guinness, and I don't even like whiskey. I like wine, and I only wear green because when I packed my suitcase, I had 3 clean shirts, and these are the clean shirts. I actually like blue. Never mind. So these are... If I say I live in Italy, what are the stereotypes about Italians? What do you know about me? I live in Italy, 40 years in Italia. Italia, what do you know? What are the stereotypes? Italia, what is it, Italy?
Emotional people.
Very emotional, yes. You, yes, I love you, I hate you. No, yes. What else do you know? Well, that's not absolutely true, you know. Not everybody. Never mind. What else do you know about Italy?
Wine.
Huh? We eat pasta and pizza. Pasta and pizza. And we drink wine. So girls, it's fantastic. You know? Girls, pasta, pizza.
Food panna cotta.
Panna cotta. Okay. Do you want to laugh with me? Can you laugh with me? So you see, I'm looking all the time. So I'm on the airplane, flying Ukrainian International, by the way. I'm very patriotic. I flew Ukrainian International Airlines from Rome to Kiev and from Kiev to Lviv. And I'm on the plane, and 3 hours from Rome, and so I pick up their magazine. This is Ukraine International, the magazine. And I'm looking through, and look what's on the cover. So I look inside, and oh, look. Oh, right in the middle of the magazine, the main article is Warm-Hearted Italy. Ah. And so immediately I feel homesick, and I start to read. And it's so sweet. And this is what they say in this article about Italy. They say, for Italians, family comes above everything. Ah. Family is the most, and they say about how the family stays together, and the restaurants are family run, and the businesses are family run. That's so sweet. It's a lie. It's not a stereotype, it's a lie. The statistics in Italy are now that 6 marriages out of 10 break down. 6 marriages out of 10 in Catholic Italy break down. There's a massive problem with old age. No one wants to keep their old parents in the house anymore, and they don't know where to put them. Very often they're kicked out into the street. It's a huge problem. We have an increasing problem with homeless, aged people. Italy has, Italy has the lowest birth rate in Europe. We have an average of half a child per family. I don't tell you which half, this half and this half, I don't know. But half the child per family, the lowest birth rate in Europe. So what family are you talking about? It's nonsense. It's a stereotype that is a lie. You can read the article for yourself. I leave it here. It goes on and on about and all the traditions. The traditions. Of course, food, and of course, the women, and of course, all the beautiful places. And Milan, the financial and fashion capital of Italy, Milan last year, for the first time, the number of babies born in Milan last year with Chinese names was more than the number of babies born with Italian names. And so you say, not just what stereotype, but what Italy, what are we talking about here? Demosthenes is right. We believe what we want to believe. You wrote down your headline. You all did, right? Because I need that headline for what you think would be a good headline for the New York Times. But I also need you now to write in one line what the stereotype is. What is the stereotype of Ukraine? What do you think my friends said to me about Ukraine? Write down what you think, the words, the key words that you think or you know are the stereotypes for Ukraine and Ukrainians. while you're writing, let me tell you how dangerous stereotypes can be. The day before yesterday, in preparing to come and doing my reading, I read some interviews. May I see, please, who comes from East Ukraine? Okay. It was an interview conducted with people in East Ukraine, so you can identify. And the interview, which was published in the international press, regarded joining Europe. What do you think their response was? Yes or no? Okay. Was their response yes, we want to join Europe? Was their response no, we don't want to join Europe? What was their response? Their response was no. No, of course not. Of course not. We don't want to join Europe. So the journalist who was trying to be a good journalist, she asked the question. What question? What question? What was the question she asked? She asked? Why? She said why? Because just a reportage that says, Mr. So-and-so doesn't want to join, Mrs. So-and-so doesn't want to join, useless. She asked, why? Do you know what they said? Do you want to know what they said? Are you interested? Are you curious? Yes? What did they say? Yes, that's what they said. They said, we don't want to join Europe because if we join Europe, we all have to be gay. Yeah. We all have to be gay. And so the journalist who was trying to be a good journalist, she said to them, well, that's not actually true. That's not true. You don't have to be gay. Surely there must be another reason. And you know what they said? Are you interested to know? Do you care? Are you curious? Yes. They said, because this is East Ukraine, they said, because if we join Europe, I cannot have domestic animals near my house. That's what they said. I can't keep dogs and cats and chickens near my house if I join Europe. They did. This is what they said. These were the two reasons that they gave for not wanting to come to Europe. Because they don't want to be gay and because they want to keep their animals. That is when a stereotype becomes a lie. Let me hear some of your Ukrainian stereotypes. Go. What are the Ukrainian stereotypes? Yes.
So the stereotypes about Ukraine, yes. Dangerous. Once the part of Soviet Union, depends on gas, oil production, Chernobyl, Maidan, refugees, protest, corruption.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. Any variations on that? Anything different to that? I'm losing weight by being here. It's very good, huh? I'll go back to Rome and everybody will say, oh, you look so thin.
I wrote only one stereotype, that Ukrainians are a very poor nation, and many Italians, I think, can say that they have a Ukrainian housekeeper or Ukrainian nanny. It's popular.
Yes. Or more and more, that's absolutely true, but even more and more, a Ukrainian caregiver for the old people. Because the Italians, like I said, they don't want to take care of their old grandmother or their old mother or old father, and Ukrainians are very good caregivers. They love old people, and they take good care of old people. Yeah, one more, last one. Oh, very good, back row, yes. Very good, yes.
Two more stereotypes: that Ukraine is a wild country of crimes and prostitutes, and that we have a lot of Nazi here.
I'm sorry, that is a stereotype. Yes, you're right.
That Ukrainian and Russian languages are similar, and people too. And we have a lot of beautiful girls, but again, one part of them are prostitutes, and western part of Ukraine is Ukrainian, and eastern part is Russian.
And those are already intelligent stereotypes. for someone already to make that distinction between East and West. Already that is someone who knows, who follows newspapers and media and is more intelligent than the average person. All right, so now the challenge. Last challenge, I won't ask you to write anything else except this. Using the idea of a headline and using the idea of keywords, please write down in one line. If you had the microphone and you were standing at my university, at the Gregorian University in Rome, what would you say to my Italian or American class about Ukraine? What would be your key message? What is the image that you want them to see? Write it down, please. What do you think the world should see? What the world needs to see? What do you think is the true image, not the stereotype, not the manipulated vision, not the lie? Give me in one line what you would see as the true message of the true Ukraine that you would like to communicate. Okay, I won't ask you to tell me now. I will ask you to tell me in 5 minutes' time. But for the next 5 minutes, you may ask me any question that you choose. I know that you know that I was a war correspondent, and I know that some of you would like to be war correspondents. And I know that those of you who don't want to be war correspondents are still curious about what it means to be a war correspondent. So, here's your opportunity to ask questions about what it is like to be a war correspondent. Yes? You can anything, whatever. It's be given in Italian.
Grazie, per favore. Uscita nata. How do you start to be a war correspondent? It was your decision or it just happened because of your work?
It just, well, happened. Do you remember yesterday you were here? What is the left hand? Karma. Karma, fortune, predestination, and so forth. I was in the right place at the right time. I was working as a journalist in Rome. Remind me how old you are?
23 years old.
23. I was 2 years younger than you are. I was 21 years of age. And I was studying and working and studying, because you never get enough to pay for your education in Rome. And an American, CNN did not exist. There was a small American company that needed someone to cover what used to be Eastern Europe, what used to be behind the Iron Curtain, and the Middle East, which has always been an issue. And since Rome is a very convenient place, because Berlin is right there, and Tel Aviv is right there, it was a very convenient place. I was young. I was not married. I had no attachments, and I was very, very stupid. And so I threw myself into situations without thinking what I was doing. And for an American television company, that was a very good thing, because I could bring them footage, I could bring them stories that other journalists were too intelligent to do. That's how I started, yes. Someone yesterday asked me why I stopped. And I will tell you, I stopped when I had my first child. Because I had to choose. Did I want my little boy to grow up with a daddy or without a daddy? Did I want him to have a daddy, or did I want him to see a photograph of the man who used to be his daddy but was killed in some situation somewhere? And I realized that I was in Beirut. Beirut is in a place called Lebanon. Lebanon is in a place called the Middle East. There was a very serious civil war in Lebanon at the end of the 70s, the beginning of the 1980s. And, oh, thank you. Oh, gosh, that's a wonderful. Did we already give him a round of applause? Morgan? Huh? Well done. Thank you. There it is. Okay. Wonderful. There's Beirut, yes. Beirut was a beautiful, it is, they've rebuilt Beirut since then. They called it the Switzerland of the Mediterranean, Beirut. But when I arrived in 1980, I had to go by boat from Cyprus during the night, and the boat stopped off Jounieh, which is in the north, and then they would take us ashore in paddle boats under cover of darkness, because Jounieh was being bombed from the highlands over there, and then I would rent a car and drive down to Beirut. And I went backwards and forwards for about 3 years. And Beirut was divided into two by something called a green line. The Christians were on this side and the Muslims were on that side. And you think, my goodness me, you know, we learn nothing, huh? We really learn nothing. And we're still Christians on one side and Muslims on the other side. And the whole city was divided. And the only way to cross was through the green line. And the green line, there were snipers, there were guns, there were sandbags, and I had to have a Christian film crew on this side and a Muslim film crew on that side. And the great thing was, we would have a wonderful time with both, but I was the one who had to cross with the cassettes, because we used big cassette tapes under my arm, and it was about 100 yards. But anything could happen to you in those 100 yards. And you know what the worst thing was? You knew, as you were crossing that green line, you could be hit by a sniper, by a shell, by a bomb, you could be blown up, your legs could be shot off, you could die at any moment. But you know what the worst thing was? I liked it. I liked it. I had never felt so alive in my life. It's scary. And if you talk to any war correspondents, they will tell you the same thing. It's a drug. It's the strongest drug that there is. The adrenaline, the pumping of the heart, the knowledge that your life can end like that, and that you are in that situation. Everything becomes suddenly, you see the colors more brightly, you hear the sounds more acutely. Everything becomes more alive because anything could happen at that moment. But that was the choice. Was I going to continue like this, or was I going to allow my child to have a father? The decision came one day when I went out with my cameraman, because in those days you had to have a cameraman and a sound man. It was very clunky. Television wasn't like this. It was a very clunky business, and there were 3 or 4 people. You went out with your flak jacket, with your bulletproof jacket on, and you went out to do your interview. And while we were doing the interview, the sound man, bomb exploded right near to us, and he was hit, and his arm was blown off while we were doing the interview. So there we're standing, and there's smoke and dust, and the sound man is lying on the ground over there, and his arm is over there, and there's blood spurting out, and he's screaming, and I'm screaming. I'm 21, for heaven's sake, allow me to scream. And I look at my cameraman, and my cameraman is filming the sound man, and then he's filming the arm, and then he's going back to where the blood is spurting out, and then he's going back for a close-up of the arm, and I'm saying, do something, for God's sake, do something! And he goes, holds the camera like this, and he pulls out a tissue paper and he throws the tissue at the sound man and he continues filming. That was it. I said, okay, over. And I can't do this anymore. I just finished the story, Alexi, because the same my same cameraman, he died a few years later. He was on a mission in Australia and he was filming a landscape from a helicopter and the helicopter crashed. And when they picked up the remains of the helicopter, they also found his camera and they found the cassette in the camera. He had filmed the crash. A helicopter, unlike an airplane when it crashes, it goes boom, boom. A helicopter goes boom. And he had filmed the crash, which meant that as the helicopter went down, as you know, he had to change focus. Because as he came closer to the ground, so he must have, did he know he was dying? Did he? Or was he so involved? He changed focus all the way down and then suddenly bang, it's finished. So that's when I decided that I should stop. But you had a question on it.
So Sean, you told about horrors of war, and when you were standing on the one side of war, did you have desire, did you have seduction to take weapons instead of camera and instead of cassettes?
Camera is a weapon. That's the answer. We're going to do the exercise in 3 minutes. Okay? Just to let you know. The camera is a weapon. Huh? Because of what you show and the way you show it. You can draw, you can create a lot of emotion in people, you can create a lot of involvement through the images. The images, I would say again, we live in an image-based society, much more than words. So if you're thinking of being a war correspondent, take your camera with you. Because it's true, the pictures do speak more loudly than the words. A couple more questions, and then we must move on to the last part of the exercise.
Я в багатьох воєнних журналістів запитувала одне і те саме, і вони говорили про те, що коли вони повертаються до свого звичайного життя, все, що вони роблять, здається їм не справжнім і таким, що взагалі не має жодного сенсу. Тобто те, що вони бачили на війні, це реальне життя, а те, що люди просто ходять по вулиці, це якийсь просто абсурд. Як ви з цим справлялися, коли ви далі після війни продовжували працювати? Тому що це такий адреналін, до якого хочеться постійно повертатися. Це перше питання. А друге питання. У вас теж, певно, були певні стереотипи, які пов'язані з цими країнами, в які ви їздили на війну. Як ви з ними боролися? І як ви намагалися, щоб ці стереотипи не били вам надто боляче по голові?
Always beautiful questions. Your questions are wonderful. It is so stimulating to be with you. Thank you so much for allowing me this experience. The stereotypes, there's only one way to break stereotypes. I'll start with that one. Huh? And that is by meeting people, by listening to people. Because people are made of flesh and blood. You use your senses. You have to touch, see, listen, engage. That is the only way that you break stereotypes. Not by stereotypes arrive through something else. They are mediated. You believe something that somebody else has told you. And so you break the stereotype by going directly to the source. And as journalists, you talk a lot about sources. The source is your most precious resource. Your source going to the person, someone you trust, someone you have confidence in, someone who is credible for you, and you go to the source. That's how you break the stereotypes. What do I do? That's a very personal question. It's a very personal question, but I told you I will not tell you lies, and I'm here for you. What do I do? It's a problem. It's a problem. I'm getting old. I can't keep going to these. My children are grown up now. So they don't really need me like they still need me, but not mostly for checks and for, hi Dad, how are you? Fine darling, how are you? I need 100, oh yeah, right, okay. So that's not a problem anymore. I still go to difficult areas. I'm still attracted by difficult areas, but I don't go into war zones anymore. So what do? You want to know? Are you curious? I skydive. That's what I do. I skydive. There's a place just outside Rome. Skydiving. Who's done skydiving? Nobody. You really are poor. I mean, come with me. Come with me. We'll go skydiving. Skydiving is the biggest adrenaline rush. It's the most exciting thing you can do with your clothes on. Yes. Last question. Last question. Yes. Oh, I have tried it with my clothes off too, but you're not allowed to say that to anybody. Huh? Only once. Sorry, sister.
My question link with your reading preference. Maybe you share with us with your your favorite books which had the great influence on you.
Okay. No, that's an impossible question. 5 books. People do ask me that often. Very often I have to go on interview shows, and not all the interview shows are as intelligent as Arthur's interview with me yesterday. Very often the questions are personal questions like that. So, what are your 5 favorite movies? What are your 5 favorite books? Do you prefer blondes? Do you prefer brunettes? You know, silly stuff like that. And the answer is, blondes or brunettes? Both. Favorite books? And the answer is the last one I read, or the one I'm reading now. And it's true, it's true. It's the book I'm reading now, really, really. I can't say Dostoevsky or, I'd love to say War and Peace, but honestly, the book I'm reading now. And the book I'm reading now, I don't have it in my bag, but it's about lying. It's a book on lying and different kinds of lies. And I started reading that before coming here, so yes, yeah. Okay. You can continue asking me questions because I will be here during lunchtime, and I think we're going to meet some of you this evening, and I'm not running away. And so if you have even other questions, I'll be very, very happy to answer them for you. But right now, I need you. I need you. I really do. And I need you to help me. Because here we are at Uku in Lviv, Ukraine, and we're having this beautiful experience, or at least for me it's beautiful. We're listening to each other and talking to each other. But I have to, because I'm a journalist, I'm a media person, I have to help other people to see this experience and to understand this experience. I'm vice president, as you know, of an organization in France that sponsors media training in different parts of the world, which is why I'm going to Tanzania in 2 weeks' time. Tanzania is in East Africa, and I'm going to give master classes not to students, but to the professors. Isn't that exciting? I'm going to teach the teachers how to teach. It's very exciting. Huh? But I have to help people to understand what we did here. And that's what Bogdan is doing. Bogdan is making a video. You've seen him taking pictures and doing videos. And we need a piece in which you talk to me about your vision of Ukraine. That's why I asked you the last thing to write down, what is your message? What do you want people to see of Ukraine? To do that, I need you, leave everything behind. You can say it in English, you can say it in Ukrainian, you can say it in any language you choose, but I need you to get up, and I need you to come over here and change your perspective. I need you to go from being passive to being active. If you can, if you want to, and if you dare, then please come to the side where I am. Don't all run at once because you will hurt each other, so take your time. No, seriously, please, can you come? Can you raise this? Can we lift this up? Can we get this? I want everybody. Everybody. Yes, we're all. Come on. We're all all in this together. Let me tell you a secret, okay? Right, I need to know, who has been to a nudist camp? Have you ever visited a nudist or a nude beach, a naked beach? You haven't. You really don't live very much, do you? Huh? If you go to a naked beach and one person takes their clothes off, it is disgusting. If everybody takes their clothes off, you go, oh, that doesn't matter. So come over here and take your clothes off. No, I mean, come over here and sit down on the floor.
Sit down on the floor?
Yeah.